Hey, good morning, good morning. Happy day to you. Episode 93 of the Daily Dose. Oh my goodness, where did 93 days go? Boom! I blinked and they're gone. That's what happens when you get older. Hey, listen, if you come on here live, give me a little thumbs up. Let me know you're here. If you're checking this out on a replay, just type in replay. If you enjoy the Daily Dose, if you've been watching any of the past 93 episodes, I do appreciate you for any amount of time that you spent. Even if you just catch a few minutes, maybe you are running out the door and you catch a moment or two, or maybe in the evening you come back and you watch the replay. Thank you so much. Why I started doing the Daily Dose back almost 100 days ago, and it's crazy to think that this whole pandemic and this whole lockdown would last for as long as it has, and we're still not out of the woods, but I'm hopeful, and I hope you are as well. And that's what the Daily Dose is for, to provide some encouragement for you, to help you get really maybe your day started, or also just your week on the right path. If you're struggling, stuck. On a side note, who I am, Mark Avens, is I should say maybe who I am. You know who I am. What I do, I am an online fitness coach, and I help busy moms and dads over 40. And I help them to lose weight without long workouts and impossible diets, so that they can not just lose weight, but keep it off forever. And I would say if you're in a rut and you're stuck in why I labeled this one over 40 is how to look better, feel better, and get better over 40, is because it's who I deal with pretty much on a regular basis. 90% of my students who are on my coaching program are in that over 40 category. Why? Because that's the season of life that I'm in, and that's who I relate most with, is moms and dads over 40, struggling with their kids and teenagers and trying to figure out as we go, sometimes on an hourly basis. But right now I want to share with you how to look better, how to feel better, and how to truly get better after 40. And when I get started in this, if you come on, I see the eyeballs, let me know. Don't be afraid to come on here. I know, maybe your biggest fear is you'll get exposed. You're looking at, somebody that's asking you to get, or saying, hey, how do you get better? How do you look better? And how do you feel better? Don't worry. It's just between you and me. And maybe you're even younger than that or older than that, and say, is this message for me? Yes, it's pretty much for everyone. But I just wanted to zone and target in on my over 40 crowd, because you're at a point in your life right now, but you probably have set in your ways certain things. And my question to you is, first, what do you consider better to be? Before we even go into how to look better, feel better, and truly get better, what do you consider better to be? What's your definition of better? That's kind of my first question to you. Is it, hey, if I get to this weight on the scale, if I could just get to 135 on the scale, if I could just get back into that bathing suit that I fit in about 10 years ago, if not just related to health, but you can relate this to anything. But let's just say, feel better. If I could just get out of bed without those aches and pains, if I could just get to this point. You see, a lot of times when I have conversations with people, I ask them, where do you want to get? Like, what is your ideal? What do you want to get to? And sometimes I think the hardest point is realizing you probably have come so far. Chances are, if you've survived in this world for any length of period of time, especially now, if you're in your 40s maybe, and you've lived a number of decades and you have those under your belt, is that you already to some extent maybe have succeeded in that respect. And maybe you are failing, but maybe it's not so much because of where you're trying to get to. It's maybe because you're just falling backwards and going backwards and falling into some bad or familiar habits. And that's kind of my point to today. It's not, okay, the magic formula about how to look better, feel better, and getting better sometimes comes to, what are you falling back to? Because what if, let's just kind of pose this question, what if better is not necessarily always like a higher level? What if getting better or feeling better or looking better isn't like that? If I could just look like that person, or feel like that person, or feel like I used to, or get better than those types of things. What if better was something more on a deeper level? Maybe what if better wasn't so much a feeling and was more of a foundation? I heard this from a pastor not too long ago about talking about your feelings versus your foundation. And isn't that the truth? Because truly, truly what I help people in my coaching program is not about the feeling so much. Yes, we have to get the emotions because you got to get that inspiration and be motivated. I want to look that way. I want to feel good and I want to fit in that bathing suit. Mark, help me fit in that bathing suit. Please, that's what I want. I wish I could see the scale go to that 135 if I could only get to that point. And my job is while I get that often, all the time, in fact. It's what helps draw people in. Like I want to get to that level, but what I want to share with you now is how to. The how to is building the foundation. What if you focus more on the foundation? Because what happens with all of us, myself included, is we get familiar with the things that we think make us feel good, right? Feel good. Feeling of familiarity, yeah, I think I pronounced that right, is something that we can recognize and we're familiar with. So what feels good when things go downhill, when this whole lockdown happened 100+ days ago, whenever, oh my goodness, how many days ago, and you're maybe on track, maybe you're just starting a diet or you're starting to exercise, you're maybe started your year off good, and then March comes around and everything gets shut down and your gyms get shut down, your eating habits. What happened? Well, you're not looking really so good, right? Let's just be honest. You're not looking so good. You're not feeling so good, and you're not getting any better, right? A lot of you. I'm not saying all of you. Let's just say that. Well, why do you think that's the case? Is you're going back to, typically I'll find people go back to what's familiar. You know what's familiar? The fast food, the alcohol, the laziness, the desserts, the chocolate. He wrote down there's a whole kinds of things that you go back to. Why? Because that's familiar, and sometimes we don't like to look ahead at what's in front of us. Maybe the opportunities. It's hard to see opportunities. We can't go to the gym. We can't go out to restaurants. We can't do this, can't do that. Well, one of the biggest things I'm going to share with you, the biggest excuses that I've been told in the past, the biggest excuse, one of the absolute biggest excuses, and it's actually part of my whole program. The approach is I help busy moms and dads over 40 who struggling to lose weight without long workouts and impossible diets, right? Busy, key on that. Well, there's a whole bunch of time for a lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people who weren't so busy anymore. And guess what? It didn't make any difference. Why? Because they fell back into what's familiar, and what's familiar wasn't a foundation, it was more of a feeling. And the feeling of tasting that chocolate, oh, if I could just get that taste of that chocolate back in my mouth, or oh, how that buzz felt, just to remove all the worries, a couple beers, a couple glasses of wine, a couple shots. If you go there, chances are maybe in your 40s you're not doing shots, but in that case, is like, if I could just get that feeling, because that's familiar and that makes me feel good. And what's the problem with that is that it's freaking temporary. It doesn't last. Why? It may be more to get the foundation down, to build the foundation, because once you build that foundation, think about a house. When you're building a house, we got hurricane season coming up soon. This house behind me here is in a good foundation. Now, it still doesn't mean that a hurricane can't come and blow it over, but chances are that versus a poorly constructed home with a poor foundation, maybe it looks good on the outside, but has terrible root system, if you will, or more so like concrete foundation, solid foundation. And that's truly the missing link that I find a lot of people that are preventing them from looking better, feeling better, and getting better after 40 or even after 50 or after 60, is that it's not so much the wanting to do it. It's that the tendency is we fall back on what's familiar. So that's my question to you. What do you consider better to be? And the hard thing is we get stuck, and I do too, always. Not just my health. And I get stuck in this whole comparison. If I could just look like that, oh my gosh, that person looks so amazing. I can't believe it. It was keto? Oh my gosh, it was keto. I'm doing keto now. That's it, because I want to look like that person, right? And hey, don't get me wrong, but I can tell you keto is not building a foundation. And it's not keto. It's not that. It's just that's what I hear a lot of people. That works for me. Keto works for me. Or, the Weight Watchers works for me. Or that boot camp works for me, or that CrossFit works for me, and those are fine. They're all tools that can be used. But if you're focused on the feeling and not the foundation, it's going to be really hard, because it's going to be really easy. Think about this. Let's just pose this question. Chances are, if you're in your 40s and you're struggling with looking better, feeling better, and this is just between you and you. If you're struggling with the way you look, and you're struggling with the way you feel, and you're struggling with knowing what to do to get better, chances are you've tried something. You've tried the diet. You've tried the quick fix. You've tried everything under the sun. Why do I know this? Because I have conversations with people still to this day that would rather chase that feeling of what maybe that quick fix does versus actually truly work on the foundation. And the hardest thing is like, then you say to yourself, and you try to convince yourself, I think I'll just go back to that diet. I think I'll just go back. That worked for me before. Well, it didn't work. Why did it not work? It didn't work because you're thinking about going back on it. And which means is it didn't build you the proper foundation. And as a coach, why I'm so freaking passionate about this is because I'm fighting the battle against people being lured in by those quick fixes, those things. What's familiar? Oh, well, that little thing, that's going to be the easiest way to do this. This is going to be the easiest way to lose the weight. This is going to be the easiest, fastest. It isn't, because what it's not going to do is give you the solution. And the solution is to build that foundation. The solution sometimes means that you have to go deeper. It requires going deeper. Listen, I know it's hard. Familiar for me. I'm not necessarily an alcohol person, but there's nothing like it now not being an alcohol person. It's like 1 drink or 2 drinks at the tops. And it doesn't really do much for me anymore. But I will say chocolate and desserts are my thing. And it's easy for me to fall back on that when life gets stressful. And it's freaking stressful right now, right? I'm not going to lie. I'm human. I avoid as much as I can. But I will say is the only way I'm going to look better for me, feel better, and get better after 40, and you can too, is you got to move beyond the familiar. You got to look into maybe what's next, and it could be right in front of you. It could be staring right in front of you. One of the biggest things here, and I'm going to finish on this because it's something that's completely transformed my life, and it's transformed the way I do business, the way I coach people. And it's something that was hard for me, is being open about my faith. Because truly, like, the standard that I used to use, the standard I used to have was in just me doing it all, and me for my best, so I can look the best and feel the best and make the most money and all those things. And while success and any of those things is not necessarily a bad thing, I know that the standard that I put, the only standard that's worthy as far as comparison and comparing to things, is knowing what God has placed in my life and the potential that He has for me, just as He has for you. So sometimes, sometimes it requires maybe looking back and saying, oh, that wasn't too awesome, but really focusing on what's ahead of you, what's in front of you. And you're like, Mark, how the heck am I going to do that? I don't even know if I can go out. I don't even know I can go to the grocery store. I don't even know if I don't know what life is in store. And I don't either. I don't know. But I have faith and trust in God. And that's the big thing, is the direction I'm going in, so that I feel better and I look better and I'm getting better, is that my focus is on God's path for my life. And I'll tell you what, there's no other comparison better than that. And that prevents me from going backwards. It sometimes prevents me from feeling the familiar, if you will. The familiar of me prior to my faith, prior to knowing God, is, in a sense, it's like, okay, that was okay, but man, that was really hard. And life is still hard now. In fact, I feel it's almost harder now. But what's better about it now is that I'm leaning on God to get me through it, not leaning on my own efforts. I'm not just leaning on a diet. I'm not leaning on even a coach per se. Is that I'm leaning on God that's going to keep me focused on what I need, so that I don't go back to some of those old familiar ways that aren't so favorable, from looking better and feeling better and getting better at 40 or 30 or 20 or 50 or 60 or any age, to be honest with you. But anyway, I hope this found you well. This is the Daily Dose. Today's message was about how to look better, feel better, and get better over 40. And the biggest thing on this is the biggest thing that I want to resonate with you is it may require you to stop going backwards, to stop relying on the feelings of what's familiar, things that are familiar, and to think that that's going to satisfy your needs. It truly isn't. I don't care what food, I don't care maybe even what bad relationship you're in, or those like temporary things, those quick fixes, is that the only way that you'll be satisfied is if you honestly, like the satisfying thing is knowing your path, and knowing your path and where your path is set. And to me, as a Christian, it's been completely life-changing once I found that path is through God's path for me, not just my own path. You can have direction, and you can say, hey, I want to be successful, I want to be healthy, I want to be fit, and know that God's plan is even bigger than all of those things. So with that, hope this message found you well. Go back and check it out. The Daily Doses is 93, episode number 93. I'm going to do something huge for episode 100, which is a week from now, which is next Tuesday, will be an episode 100. If you enjoyed this message, go ahead and share it with somebody. If you didn't catch all of it, if you're just coming on now, go back, I'll post it again, and listen. I'm going to encourage you. This is to be encouraging. The encouragement is looking at where you're at now if you want to look better, where you're at now if you want to feel better, where you're at now if you want to get better. And you have the potential, you definitely have the worth and the value to do that. And sometimes you have to look beyond what's familiar and look in what's unfamiliar, and that can be a blessing in disguise. So that's all I got. Hope you have an amazing, blessed Tuesday. Take care. We'll talk soon. We'll see you.